The observation deck of the starship Aurora's Dawn was unusually quiet that morning. Stars stretched across the vast window like scattered diamonds, and the hum of the ship's engines was the only sound that filled the room. Most passengers preferred the lounges, the cafes, or the interactive halls. Few came here, where silence demanded attention and reflection. Joren, a human pilot and linguist, walked slowly toward the window, holding a cup of synthesized coffee. He liked this part of the ship. It made him feel small in a comforting way. He could look at the stars and, for a few moments, forget about schedules, politics, and the endless meetings of the upcoming interstellar summit. That was when he saw her. She was sitting alone near the edge of the observation deck. Her figure was tall and graceful, with a slight glow that made her stand out from the muted colors of the room. Her skin was pale blue, with faint silver patterns that shimmered when the light touched them. Her eyes were larger than humans and deep like dark pools reflecting the stars themselves. Most people walked past her, eyes averted. Some whispered quietly. Others laughed or chatted loudly with companions. It was as if she were invisible, or perhaps too strange for anyone to approach. Joren paused. There was something about her. Something quiet yet powerful. He could feel it in the calm aura she gave off. The way she did not react to the whispers, the way she seemed to observe everything without judgment. He hesitated for a moment, then made a decision. Slowly, deliberately, he walked toward her and took the seat beside her. "Hello," he said softly, not wanting to disturb the gentle atmosphere. She turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his. There was no surprise, no smile, no hostility, just a calm recognition like she had been waiting for someone to finally notice her. "Greetings," she said, her voice smooth and melodic. "I am Liara." "I'm Joren," he replied. I noticed you were alone." Liara inclined her head slightly, the faint silver lines on her skin catching the light. "It is often easier to observe from a distance." Joren nodded. "I can understand that. I like observing, too." For a few moments, neither spoke. They both looked at the stars. The hum of the engines and the distant whispers of other passengers filled the quiet space around them. Finally, Joren asked, "Do you travel often?" Liara's eyes shifted, reflecting the star patterns outside. "I have traveled many cycles of my species. Each journey offers knowledge if one is willing to see it." Joren smiled faintly. "Knowledge. I like that. Humans are curious too. We like to learn, sometimes too much." Liara's lips curved slightly. It was not a smile, but a recognition of humor. Curiosity can be a gift or a burden. It depends on how one uses it. Joren took a sip of his coffee. He was careful not to disturb the silence too much. "Do you mind if I ask, why does everyone ignore you?" Liara's gaze did not leave the stars. "Perhaps they fear what they do not understand. Perhaps they see difference and mistake it for danger. Humans are not the only species to do so." Joren nodded slowly. He had seen it before. Fear of the unknown. Fear of those who seemed different. But something about Liara made him feel that ignoring her was a mistake. Something important might be lost if he did not try to understand. "Most people here, they don't see value beyond appearances," he said quietly. Liara's eyes finally met his. "Appearances are often misleading. True value is deeper, hidden beneath what is obvious." Joren felt a spark of curiosity. There was intelligence here, far beyond what many humans or even other aliens could recognize immediately. He wanted to learn more, but he also knew to move slowly. Some beings did not open themselves easily. "I'd like to learn from you," he said, "if you allow it." Liara's gaze softened just a little. "You observe without fear. That is rare. Many are too quick to judge." They talked for a while, mostly about neutral topics. Stars, space travel, the hum of engines, the strange customs of different species. Liara's words were precise and careful, each sentence measured. Yet every word seemed to carry more meaning than it appeared. Joren noticed how she could point out patterns in human behavior that most humans themselves did not see. She noticed how his posture changed when he was thinking deeply. She noticed how the humans in the room avoided her, and she knew why. "You humans are fascinating," she said quietly. "You create, destroy, adapt, and survive. Your unpredictability is your strength and weakness." Joren laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." Liara's lips curved faintly again. "It is." The observation deck grew dimmer as the ship's internal lights shifted for the cycle change. Other passengers began leaving for meals or meetings, and the room emptied further. Joran realized he had spent hours sitting beside her, talking quietly, learning. There was a calm, almost electric energy in the air when they spoke. He felt it deep in his chest, a sense that something important was beginning. Liara finally spoke again, her voice softer. You have chosen to see what others do not. That choice may matter more than you realize. Joran looked at her, curious. Matter how? Time will show, she said, her gaze drifting back to the stars. The universe is larger than humans can imagine. Many seek to control it, but only those who observe, learn, and adapt survive its challenges. Joran understood, though not fully. He felt that he had met someone extraordinary. Someone who could change his understanding of not just the universe, but humanity itself. As the ship glided silently through the void, he made a silent promise to himself. He would sit beside her again. He would learn from her, and he would not allow others' fear or ignorance to cloud what he could discover. Liara, meanwhile, seemed to acknowledge his unspoken promise. Her eyes reflected the distant stars, shimmering with knowledge, patience, and something almost human in its warmth. For the first time in many cycles, she did not feel entirely alone. Joran took a deep breath and looked out at the endless expanse of stars. He had no idea what lay ahead, no idea how this quiet choice to sit beside her would shape the events to come. But one thing was certain. The quiet encounter on the observation deck was only the beginning. The hum of the Aurora's dawn continued, steady and calm. Outside, the stars stretched infinitely, as if waiting for the story to unfold. And in the corner of the observation deck, two beings, one human, one alien, sat side by side, quietly sharing the vastness of space and the promise of what might come. The following cycle, the Aurora's dawn hummed along silently through the endless stretch of stars. Joran found himself drawn back to the observation deck, carrying another cup of synthesized coffee. He had learned quickly that some choices were too important to delay. Sitting beside Liara yesterday had been more than a coincidence. He had felt it in his chest, a quiet pull toward understanding, toward something beyond ordinary human experience. Liara was already there, sitting in her usual place. She had not moved since he last saw her, her eyes tracing the constellations as if memorizing them. The gentle silver lines on her skin glowed faintly under the soft deck lights. You return, she said, not looking at him directly. Her voice was calm, steady, carrying no surprise. I thought I should, Joran replied, sliding into the seat beside her. I like this view, and I want to learn more from you. Liara turned her head slightly, just enough to meet his gaze. Learning requires patience. Curiosity alone is insufficient. You must observe, not just ask, Joran nodded. I can do that, I want to do that. They sat in silence for a few moments, both looking out at the endless stars. Joran realized that he could feel the hum of the ship more clearly here. He could feel the tiny vibrations in the floor, the faint rhythm of engines, the subtle motion of the deck as the ship adjusted its trajectory. It was calming, grounding, and he wondered if Liara felt it as deeply as he did. You humans are interesting, Liara said finally. You think quickly, adapt quickly, yet often overlook what is before you. Observation is not instinctive for you. It must be learned, Joran smiled. Is that a compliment? It can be, she replied. If you accept it as such, he laughed softly. I will accept it. And what about you? Do you observe naturally? Liara's eyes shifted slightly, catching the light. It is part of my species' nature. We perceive patterns. We notice connections. Many species lack this ability, or they ignore it when they possess it. Joran's curiosity deepened. Patterns? Connections, like predicting behavior? Not predicting, Liara corrected. Understanding. Comprehending the factors that shape actions. Humans are unpredictable. That is why you survive. That is why you excel where others fail. Joran leaned back, taking a sip of his coffee. You mean humans have advantages other species don't even notice? Yes, Liara said softly. Your unpredictability, your willingness to take risks, your emotions, they can be strengths. But you often mismanage them. You must learn when to act, when to wait, when to observe. Joran felt a strange thrill. Few beings had ever spoken to him this way, as if seeing both his potential and his flaws without judgment. He had always believed humans were capable, resilient, and sometimes reckless, but Never that someone from another species would recognize both the danger and the gift in that balance. Do you think humans are ready for the summit? Joran asked cautiously. The summit was a meeting of the galaxy's most powerful species, where decisions could tip peace into war and vice versa. Liara's gaze returned to the stars. Some are. Most are not. They rely on force, intimidation, or tradition. Humans rely on possibilities. You must understand them and you must teach them. If ignored, the summit may lead to conflict that could have been avoided. Joran shivered slightly. He had expected discussion, but the gravity of her words settled heavily on him. Conflict that could destroy entire civilizations, yet humans by nature could navigate it differently. He understood her point. The choices humans made, small, quiet, courageous, might influence events far beyond the ship's walls. He hesitated, then asked, "Do you think I could help?" Liara's gaze met his. This time it held something more. Acknowledgement, perhaps even hope. You have the curiosity, the willingness to act quietly and the ability to see what others do not. That is rare. Yes, you may help. For the first time, Joran felt a weight of responsibility settle on him. It was both exciting and terrifying, yet beside him, Liara's calm presence was reassuring. They continued their conversation, moving from abstract thoughts to practical observations. Joran learned that Liara's species had traveled beyond known galaxies, had observed countless civilizations, and had seen how small, thoughtful choices often shaped entire futures. She spoke of alliances that had collapsed due to arrogance, battles avoided because one individual had taken a quiet risk, and civilizations that had flourished through adaptability rather than sheer power. You humans are unusual, Liara said at one point, almost as if thinking aloud. You do not always follow logic, yet your unpredictability sometimes protects you from logic's limitations. I have not seen many species do that successfully. Joran laughed softly. We call it improvising. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but we keep trying. That is a lesson other species forget, Liara said, her eyes narrowing slightly in thought. They fear failure. Humans embrace it in a way because they know that success often requires mistakes. He nodded. I never thought of it like that. I suppose we do have advantages in ways people don't expect. Liara's lips curved faintly, almost a smile. Do not underestimate yourself. Observation and understanding are only the first steps. Action must follow. And often, quiet action is the most effective. Joran felt a spark of determination. I want to be that kind of person. To make a difference quietly without needing praise. Liara's gaze softened. Then you already understand part of the journey. Most humans seek recognition or fear invisibility. You do not. That is rare. Their conversation was interrupted briefly by the ship's automated announcement. The next cycle would bring the delegates together for a preliminary briefing. Joran realized that most of the other passengers would soon be crowded into the conference halls, discussing politics, alliances, and strategy. Few would notice what was unfolding here, between a human and an alien observer. Will you join me in the briefing? Joran asked. Liara shook her head slightly. Observation now is more valuable than participation. I will watch and I will guide, but only subtly. Others must not know the strength behind quiet understanding until it is necessary. Joran nodded. He understood. Patience would be key. Learning first, acting later. The quiet choice he had made yesterday to sit beside her was beginning to feel like the first step in something much larger. They returned to observing the stars, and Joran found himself noticing more than ever the subtle shifts in the ship's hum, the faint blinking of distant navigation lights, the tiny changes in Liara's expressions when she detected patterns. He realized that learning from her was not just about knowledge, it was about perception, awareness, and timing. Hours passed. The stars outside shifted subtly as the ship sailed through a new sector of space. Occasionally, a passenger would pass by, glance at Liara, and move on without recognition. But Joran did not care. He was learning something far more important: how to see what others ignored, how to understand value that was hidden in plain sight, and how humans could quietly influence events that others assumed were beyond them. Finally, Liara spoke again, her voice calm, almost meditative. You have the patience to observe, Joran. You also have the courage to act. Most humans fail at one or both. That combination is dangerous yet promising. Promising, he asked, intrigued. Yes, Liara said, because it is not always the loudest or the strongest who change the future. Sometimes it is those who watch quietly, learn deeply, and act when the moment is right. Joran leaned back, letting her words sink in. He understood in a way he could not yet explain, that this quiet lesson might shape everything to come. The summit, the potential conflicts, the alliances, the unknown dangers of deep space. They were all parts of a larger pattern. And for the first time, he felt that humans had a place in that pattern, not as pawns, but as active participants. Liara's gaze returned to the stars, and Joran mirrored her, feeling a sense of shared understanding. He did not yet know what challenges awaited, what dangers might emerge, or how far his quiet choices would carry him. But he knew one thing. Sitting beside her yesterday had been more than coincidence. It was the beginning of a journey, a quiet path toward understanding, courage, and perhaps even heroism in ways the galaxy had not yet imagined. And in that quiet observation, surrounded by the hum of the aurora's dawn and the infinite stars beyond, Joran realized that sometimes the smallest decisions, the quietest actions, could shape the largest outcomes. For the first time, he truly understood that being human meant more than strength or technology. It meant curiosity, courage, and the willingness to see what others ignored. And beside him, Liara seemed to recognize the same truth. The stars stretched endlessly. The ship hummed steadily, and two beings, one human, one alien, sat side by side, quietly learning, quietly planning, and quietly preparing for a future that only they could begin to understand. The aurora's dawn sailed smoothly through a quiet sector of space. Joran had returned to the observation deck again, drawn by the calm presence of Liara. They had spoken at length the previous cycle about patterns, observation, and the strengths humans could bring to situations others considered impossible. The stars outside seemed peaceful, distant, and eternal. Joran leaned against the window, sipping his coffee, listening to the soft hum of the engines. Liara sat beside him, her eyes reflecting the endless expanse, her posture relaxed yet alert. "It is unusual," she said suddenly, her gaze fixed on the dark void ahead. "Most humans cannot remain calm when danger is near. You have a different rhythm. It is useful." Joran chuckled lightly. "Useful, huh? I hope it stays that way. I'm not a hero yet." Liara's lips curved faintly. "Heroes are not born in moments of safety. They are revealed when chaos arrives." Joran shivered slightly. Her words were calm, but the weight behind them was clear. Suddenly, the quiet hum of the engines shifted. A subtle vibration ran through the deck, almost imperceptible at first, but Joran noticed it immediately. The stars outside appeared to flicker, like distant lights being shadowed for a moment. "What is that?" he asked, frowning. Liara's eyes narrowed slightly, her focus turning toward the navigation panels across the deck. "A presence. Approaching rapidly. Not from any known route." Joran's heart began to race. "Unknown fleet?" Liara nodded. "Likely hostile. Prepare yourself." The ship's alarms did not sound immediately. Perhaps the automated systems had not yet identified the threat. But Joran could feel it, an unfamiliar energy, sharp and tense, pressing against the hull. He realized the calm observation of the previous cycles would not be enough this time. Action was necessary. The first flashes appeared on the main screen, clusters of ships moving in formation, their hulls dark and angular. They approached quickly, weapons glowing faintly in the vacuum of space. Liara rose from her seat with graceful precision. "The bridge must be informed. Systems may be compromised." Joran followed immediately, adrenaline surging. He was no stranger to emergencies, but this was different. These were not ordinary patrol ships. Something about their movement, their precision, made him uneasy. On the bridge, crew members scrambled. Officers barked orders, and the hum of activity filled the room. But panic was evident. Many had never faced this level of threat. Liara moved through the bridge with calm efficiency. Her hands touched panels lightly, and subtle shifts of energy flickered around her fingers. Joran realized with a sudden shock that her species had abilities humans could barely understand. She was manipulating energy fields, stabilizing systems that were failing under the strain of approaching weapons fire. "Divert power to the shields," she instructed quietly. "Adjust trajectory slightly. We must avoid direct engagement for now." Joran moved beside her, assisting where he could. He activated auxiliary panels, rerouted power, and followed her instructions precisely. It was remarkable how seamlessly they worked together, her precision and knowledge complemented by his improvisation and speed. The enemy fleet fired first. The hull of the Aurora's Dawn shuddered as energy blast struck its outer defenses. Sparks flew from control panels and the lights flickered. The crew shouted, but Liara remained calm, moving among them and adjusting the shields with hands that seemed to command subtle forces beyond human comprehension. Joren gritted his teeth, piloting small adjustments as Liara directed energy flow. "How are you doing that?" he asked quietly. Liara did not look at him. "I am using fields that your species does not perceive directly. They are part of my understanding of matter, energy, and the interactions of force. It is precise. Improper manipulation could destroy the ship instead of protecting it." Joren swallowed hard. He had always known humans were clever, but he had never witnessed something so alien, so precise. Yet together they kept the ship stable. Each burst of enemy fire met the calculated response of shields and energy deflection. Minutes passed, though they felt like hours. The enemy ships maneuvered with intelligence, attempting to encircle them. Yet the calm coordination between Joren and Liara prevented catastrophe. The crew began to notice subtle nods, hushed praise, but no one fully understood how she did it. Finally, a particularly large blast struck the hull, sending a tremor through the ship. Joren stumbled slightly but recovered, adjusting the stabilizers manually. Liara's hands glowed faintly as she redirected energy, sealing a breach in the secondary systems. "You see," she said softly, almost to herself, "it is not strength alone that ensures survival. It is understanding, timing, and subtle control." Joren nodded, feeling a strange pride. "We make a good team." Liara's gaze met his briefly. "Yes, but many do not recognize the value of quiet cooperation. They rely on force or numbers, not insight." The enemy fleet continued to press, but their attacks became less effective. Each maneuver of the Aurora's Dawn seemed to anticipate the enemy's next move, guided by the combination of human intuition and Liara's precise calculations. One of the younger officers approached nervously. How are we surviving?" "They outnumber us." Liara looked at him, calm and composed. "Numbers alone do not determine outcome. Observation, adaptation, and understanding determine outcome. You must act with your mind, not just your weapons." Joren realized the truth in her words. Humans often survived where logic failed because of ingenuity, courage, and flexibility. Liara was showing the crew that survival did not require brute force. It required intelligence, focus, and trust. As the battle continued, Joren noticed a subtle change. The enemy ships, previously confident and coordinated, began to hesitate. Their formations shifted slightly, as if confused by the Aurora's Dawn's unexpected maneuvers. He looked at Liara, who was quietly directing power with hands that barely seemed to touch anything. "They are unprepared for adaptation," he said. Liara nodded slightly. "Predictable beings fail against unpredictable ones. Humans, when guided by knowledge and insight, can become unpredictable in ways even other species cannot anticipate." The ship's hull took one more hit, a close strike that sent a jolt through the bridge. Joren gritted his teeth, adjusting trajectory manually while Liara stabilized shields. Finally, the enemy fleet seemed to retreat slightly, confused by the resilience and calculated maneuvers of the human and alien team. The bridge crew exhaled collectively, a wave of relief spreading through the room. Yet Liara remained calm, observing the sensors carefully. "They have not left entirely," she warned. "Do not celebrate too soon. This is only the first engagement." Joren nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He realized that the galaxy was not a safe place, and survival depended on much more than weapons. It depended on observation, understanding, and the courage to act quietly but decisively. "Your species," Joren began, hesitant. "You have powers humans can barely imagine. Why help us?" Liara's gaze softened briefly. "Because some humans are different. They see, they learn, they act with thought and courage. That combination is rare. It is worth guiding. It is worth trusting." Joren felt a strange warmth, not just of pride, but of connection. For the first time, he truly understood that the quiet choices, like sitting beside her in the observation deck, were not trivial. They had positioned him to witness her abilities, to work alongside her, and to influence events that could determine the fate of many. The bridge slowly returned to a tense calm. The enemy ships remained in the distance, likely regrouping, but the immediate threat had passed. Joran leaned back, breathing heavily, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Liara turned to him finally. You acted without fear. You observed. You adapted. That is why we survived. Joran smiled faintly, feeling the truth in her words. We survived. Together. Yes, Liara said softly. And together we will continue to observe, to learn, and to act when the moment demands it. As the stars stretched endlessly outside, Joran realized that the galaxy was a place of danger, but also of opportunity. Humans had the potential to thrive not just through strength or technology, but through courage, insight, and collaboration. And beside him, Liara remained calm, a quiet presence in the chaos, teaching him the value of patience, observation, and the power of quiet action. The battle had passed, but the journey was only beginning. The Aurora's dawn had survived the first attack, but the tension aboard the ship remained high. Crew members moved quickly between stations, checking shields, adjusting systems, and scanning for any further threats. The starship's hum seemed louder now, almost as if it too was aware that danger was still near. Joran returned to the observation deck, finding Liara already there. She sat with her hands folded lightly on her lap, eyes scanning the starry expanse. Though her expression remained calm, Joran noticed a subtle intensity in her gaze, a readiness and awareness, as if she were already calculating their next steps. We survived the first engagement, Joran said, sliding into the seat beside her. But I know that won't be the last. Liara inclined her head slightly. Survival is never guaranteed. Each threat carries its own pattern. Observation alone is insufficient. One must prepare and act. Joran nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Then we prepare. What do you suggest? Liara's eyes shimmered faintly. We must anticipate. The enemy will regroup. They will test our weaknesses. We must do the same. Anticipate, adapt, and act before they force us to react. Joran took a deep breath. I'm listening. She leaned slightly forward, her voice calm but firm. First, the crew must learn to trust their observations, not just automated systems. Humans rely heavily on machinery and calculations. That is efficient, but it can create blind spots. You must teach them to notice subtle changes in energy patterns, ship vibrations, and enemy maneuvers. Joran considered her words. So I'll guide them? Show them how to observe like we did during the attack? Liara nodded. Yes, but subtly. Do not overwhelm them with theory. Observation must become instinctive. Only then can they act quickly when necessary. And for the enemy? Joran asked. We can't just wait for them to attack again. Liara's eyes returned to the stars. We will create a pattern of predictability that is false. The enemy will believe they understand our strategy, but in truth, we will adapt at each step. Unpredictability is a human strength. They cannot anticipate it if it is guided carefully. Joran's mind raced. So we train the crew to think like us, use their instincts, but also create strategies that mislead the enemy? Yes, Liara said softly. A combination of observation, intuition, and controlled unpredictability. That is how humans succeed where logic alone fails. The hum of the ship felt reassuring, grounding Joran in the midst of the planning. He realized that humans had survived countless challenges in their history through improvisation, empathy, and courage. Liara's insight made him see that these traits could now save lives on a galactic scale. Over the next few cycles, Joran and Liara worked quietly with the crew. Joran took charge of small observation drills, asking officers to notice fluctuations in energy readings, subtle vibrations in the hull, and slight irregularities in the enemy fleet's approach. Liara guided him, showing how to combine these observations with careful planning and precise action. At first, the crew struggled. Many were uncomfortable with the unfamiliar approach, hesitant to rely on instinct rather than protocols. But Joran's calm encouragement, combined with Liara's subtle energy guidance, gradually changed their mindset. Officers began noticing details that had previously escaped them, predicting enemy maneuvers and adjusting the ship's trajectory more fluidly. You see? Liara said quietly during one session. Adaptation is not instinct alone. It is observation paired with understanding. Humans excel when they combine both. Joran smiled. I'm starting to see it, and it's amazing to watch. One evening after the drills, Joran found Liara in the observation deck, staring at a distant star cluster. The deck was empty, and the hum of the ship felt almost like a heartbeat in the silence. "You are teaching them well," she said softly. "Humans are quick learners when guided correctly. They can achieve more than many species believe possible." Joran looked at her. "I couldn't do it without you. You see patterns I can't even imagine." Liara's gaze met his, faint warmth in her eyes. "And you act with courage and insight where I could only guide. That combination is rare. It is why we survived the first attack." Joran felt a strange pride, not for himself but for the way humans and Liara could work together. He realized that this quiet partnership, one human, one alien, was far more powerful than he had imagined. "Do you think the summit will be dangerous?" he asked cautiously. Liara's eyes flickered with thought. Danger is always present when multiple civilizations meet with competing interests. Some will seek power, some will seek advantage, some will seek destruction. You must understand that humans have a voice not because of force but because of choice, creativity, and courage. "And we can guide it?" Joran asked. Liara nodded. "If you act with insight, yes. But quiet observation is key. Do not let arrogance or fear cloud judgment. The galaxy rewards those who notice, who learn, and who act when the moment is right." The next cycle brought new developments. Sensors detected small clusters of unknown ships on the outskirts of their route. They were not the same fleet as before, but their presence indicated that danger had not passed. Joran and Liara worked with the bridge team to anticipate their moves. Joran instructed officers to rely on observation and intuition, while Liara subtly manipulated energy flows to strengthen shields and monitor potential weak points. The team became more confident, trusting both human improvisation and Liara's guidance. "Notice the pattern?" Liara said to Joran quietly. "Do not act yet. Predict their next step based on observation, not assumption." Joran watched the enemy clusters, analyzing their movement. Slowly, a pattern emerged. The ships were probing, testing for weaknesses. He relayed this to the officers, and the crew adjusted shields, maneuvers, and defensive systems. Hours later, when the enemy withdrew, the team realized that they had successfully avoided engagement without firing a single weapon. "You see," Liara said softly, "strength alone is not always necessary. Knowledge, patience, and understanding achieve what force cannot. That is the human advantage." Joran smiled faintly. "And we did it together. Quietly, strategically." "Yes," Liara replied. "And this is only the beginning. Each challenge will test you. Each test will shape the outcome. But humans, guided wisely, can face what others deem impossible." The Aurora's Dawn continued its journey, carrying its passengers toward the interstellar summit. Joran and Liara continued their quiet partnership, observing, guiding, and preparing for challenges yet unseen. Joran realized that the galaxy was full of dangers, but also full of opportunity. Humans had the potential to survive and thrive not just through strength, but through insight, courage, and adaptability. And beside him, Liara remained calm, patient, and perceptive. Together, they were preparing not only for the threats ahead but for the larger purpose, showing that quiet courage, observation, and trust could influence the course of entire civilizations. As the stars stretched endlessly outside, Joran felt a sense of purpose. He understood that their journey was not only about survival, but about proving the value of humans in a galaxy that often underestimated them. And for the first time, he realized that quiet choices, the simple act of sitting beside someone others ignored, could ripple outward to shape destinies, prevent conflicts, and create opportunities no one else had imagined. The hum of the ship continued steadily, a quiet rhythm of life, of preparation, and of hope. And in the observation deck, a human and an alien sat side by side, quietly learning, quietly guiding, and quietly building the strategy that could save countless lives and change the fate of the galaxy. The Aurora's Dawn drifted into the orbit of the neutral planet, where the interstellar summit was to take place. The city below sparkled like a jewel against the dark canvas of space. A mixture of alien architecture and natural landscapes blended seamlessly together. The delegates from countless civilizations would soon gather here, each bringing their own ambitions, fears, and strategies. Joran walked down the corridor toward the main conference hall, his steps steady but thoughtful. Liara accompanied him, moving with quiet grace. No one in the hall seemed to notice her yet, though whispers of curiosity passed among the delegates. Some gazed at her strange shimmering skin. Others averted their eyes, unsure of how to approach someone so different. But Joran did not care. He had learned that her knowledge and insight were far more important than appearances. This place. It feels tense, Joran said quietly. Everyone seems ready to argue or compete. Liara's eyes scanned the approaching conference doors. Tension is expected. Many delegates rely on tradition, force, or intimidation. They underestimate the value of insight, of observation, and of quiet courage. Humans must act where others hesitate. That is why you are here. Joran swallowed. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders. The quiet lessons of observation, adaptation, and subtle action would finally be tested on the largest stage imaginable. The doors opened, and the conference hall revealed itself in all its grandeur. Holographic displays floated above the delegates' tables, showing maps of territories, resources, and interstellar routes. Alien species with vibrant colors, strange shapes, and multiple limbs filled the room, murmuring to one another. Humans occupied one corner, small in number but full of purpose. Joran and Liara moved to their assigned seats. Liara remained calm, as always, while Joran felt the familiar tension of being among so many unknown intentions. Yet he remembered the lessons of the past cycles, the value of patience, observation, and quiet courage. As the summit began, leaders rose to present their arguments. Some spoke loudly, asserting dominance. Others relied on threats or intimidation. The atmosphere grew thick with rivalry. Joran watched closely, noticing patterns in behavior, subtle signs of alliances and weaknesses in strategy. Liara, beside him, whispered occasional insights, guiding him through what to notice, what to anticipate, and when to speak. Hours passed. Debate became heated and tensions threatened to spill into conflict. Some species suggested territorial claims that could provoke war. Others used veiled threats, testing the humans' reactions. Most delegates overlooked the humans entirely, assuming they were insignificant. Joran stayed calm, observing every word, every gesture, every small detail. He remembered Liara's advice. Observation paired with courage can achieve what force alone cannot. When a particularly aggressive delegate attempted to dominate the discussion, Joran spoke. His voice was clear but calm, not loud, not threatening. "If I may," he said, drawing attention without arrogance. "Your argument assumes control will ensure peace, but history shows that force alone rarely succeeds. Observation, understanding, and careful planning are what maintain stability." The room fell quiet. Few had expected a human to challenge the dominant voices. Liara's eyes met Joran's briefly, a faint acknowledgement of approval in her calm gaze. Joran continued, "We have learned through experience that small, thoughtful actions can prevent conflict where strength fails. Humans have faced challenges in our own history through courage, collaboration, and adaptability. These lessons may be valuable here as well." Some delegates whispered, others frowned, and a few looked intrigued. Liara spoke softly beside him, reinforcing his points with subtle insights about the unseen connections among the factions. Her knowledge of patterns, strategy, and diplomacy guided his words, though no one could see her influence directly. As the summit progressed, it became clear that tensions were reaching a breaking point. A small disagreement threatened to escalate into an interstellar dispute. Joran observed the subtle signs, the way some delegates shifted, the glint in their eyes, the hesitation in their movements. He realized that timing would be crucial. Liara leaned close.
"Now," she whispered.
"Act with clarity and precision. Observe, then guide." Joran took a deep breath and spoke again. He suggested a solution that combined compromise, resource sharing, and strategic observation, rather than domination or force. He cited examples from human history, showing how small interventions could prevent wars. His words were careful, logical, and appealing to reason, yet carried an unspoken weight of courage and insight. The delegates listened. Slowly, one by one, they began to nod. Arguments softened and proposals were adjusted to accommodate both sides. Liara's guidance remained subtle, invisible to the others but crucial in shaping the outcome. By the end of the day, the summit had avoided conflict. Agreements were reached that seemed almost impossible at the start. Human ingenuity, courage, and the quiet influence of observation had changed the course of events. As the meeting concluded, delegates began to recognize Liara. Her calm demeanor, her subtle wisdom, and her quiet presence had guided Joran to influence outcomes no one thought possible. Whispers of respect and curiosity filled the room. Joran looked at her, feeling gratitude and awe. You helped me more than I can say. Without your guidance, I wouldn't have known how to act." Liara inclined her head slightly. "You acted with courage, observation, and thought. I guided only the path. The choice, the action was yours. That is why it succeeded." For the first time, Joran understood that HFY, the spirit of humanity, was not only about strength or technology. It was about courage in the face of challenge, curiosity to see beyond appearances, and the ability to act wisely even when unnoticed. Later, as the hall emptied, Liara and Joran stood on the observation balcony overlooking the city. The lights below shimmered like stars brought to the ground, and the hum of the planet's energy mixed with the quiet rhythm of the ship. "You humans are remarkable," Liara said softly. "You see what others miss. You act when others hesitate, and you inspire change quietly without demanding attention. That is rare in the galaxy." Joran smiled faintly. "We've always tried to survive, to thrive, sometimes quietly. I didn't realize it could make a difference on this scale." Liara's gaze met his. "It can, and it has. Today you proved that courage, insight, and careful action are more valuable than power alone. This is what humans bring to the galaxy. This is why they matter." Joran felt a sense of pride not in himself alone but in humanity. For the first time he saw how quiet courage and thoughtful action could influence entire civilizations. He understood that every choice, no matter how small, could ripple outward, shaping futures in ways unseen. The hum of the ship continued steadily beneath their feet, a reminder of continuity, of life, and of endless possibilities. The stars stretched beyond the planet, infinite and patient, as if observing the outcomes of countless small decisions that shaped the galaxy. Liara's presence remained calm, a constant source of wisdom and guidance. And Joran realized that their quiet partnership, human courage paired with alien insight, had shown the galaxy something remarkable. That strength was not the only path to survival, and that humans, when acting with intelligence and courage, could influence even the most complex challenges. As the Aurora's dawn prepared to depart the planet, Joran stood beside Liara once more on the observation deck. The city below glimmered, the stars beyond stretched endlessly, and a sense of quiet hope filled the air. "You think the galaxy will notice humans now?" he asked softly. Liara's eyes reflected the distant stars. "They will notice. Not immediately, not in ways that are obvious, but your actions today will ripple outward. Humans act quietly yet profoundly. That is your gift." Joran nodded, understanding the truth of her words. He had learned that being human was not about being the loudest, the strongest, or the most visible. It was about courage, insight, empathy, and the willingness to act wisely when it mattered most. And as he looked beside him, at the alien woman whom everyone had once ignored, he felt a quiet sense of purpose. Together, they had changed events that could have led to conflict. Together, they had proven that humans with courage and careful thought could face the galaxy and leave a lasting impact. The Aurora's dawn hummed as it sailed into the stars. And in the quiet observation deck, Joran and Liara stood side by side witnessing the galaxy, ready for the challenges yet to come and confident that small, thoughtful choices could change the course of countless lives. The summit had ended, but the journey of humanity, courage, and quiet heroism was only beginning. And in that moment, Joran understood a truth he would carry forever. Sometimes, sitting quietly beside someone ignored by the world could become the first step toward changing the universe.